Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And we're just back from our first trip to Luminary Bakery, as recommended by Meghan Markle.
Yes, this week we have been royally influenced by the number one royal influencer, Meghan Markle. She featured Luminary Bakery in her September issue of British Vogue, and we just couldn't resist getting on the ground and doing our own investigation.
So, Luminary Bakery is a social enterprise that provides training, community and employment opportunities to women from vulnerable backgrounds. So we dropped in to see what the cakes were like.
It's in Stoke Newington, which is in kind of northeast London, and I was pretty surprised that it's quite small in size. It very much feels like a community cafe bakery, like it's very relaxed, very laid back kind of feel.
They have a garden, very nice, and they set up a little parking spot for dogs around the front, which was very cute.
Very sweet. Also sweet were all of the treats. They had a pretty good spread. We had a real feast.
It was so good. So we had some salted caramel brownies, massive slice of lemon and blueberry cake, and the lemon and thyme loaf, which was my favourite, and I think yours as well.
Yeah, definitely worth the calories.
We were gently asking questions about what the impact of Meghan's Vogue was, and one of the women that worked there said it was very exciting. That's all I'll say. I'm sure it was very exciting.
Tantalising little tidbit. They did have a picture of the Vogue cover and a scan of the feature on the wall, which was cool, I thought. We did take some pictures. Tom was really exercising his foodie blogger overhead photography skills.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because I don't really do that very often, but I was like striding around, taking the pictures I wanted.
Just flexing a new muscle, really.
I know, and you know, maybe you'll see a lot more of this now.
We tried to do a very Meghan Markle take style, and you can judge our efforts on our Instagram page at AirheadsPod, or on Twitter at AirheadsPod, or on Facebook
at Airheads.
We did get a little bit more news about Meghan's Vogue this week, or maybe I should say speculation, because the stories about this Vogue issue just keep coming. This time it had to do with what Meghan was trying to do with the Vogue issue in the long term. So in the Daily Beast's Royalist column, there was a suggestion that Meghan and Harry had been using the issue to cement their claims to the various bits of territory that will be up for grabs now that the joint royal foundation of the Fab Four has officially broken up.
That's quite an extreme way of putting it. I do definitely think that they were stating what they were interested in supporting.
I mean, it's branding. Meghan's all about branding. Now that they are setting up the Sussex Royal Foundation, it makes sense that she would have an eye on what charitable causes they want to be associated with. The Daily Beast column notes that Harry has taken full possession of the very fashionable causes of wildlife conservation and the environment, while Meghan seems to be angling to be the face of mental health awareness, which officially both sets of royals will continue to lobby for. This could get messy.
I sort of hope it does get messy because it's only going to make it better for the charities involved.
I don't think it even needs to be messy, but I think it will be more of a driving force for both couples, and it's going to push both the Cambridges and the Sussexes to work harder.
Do you know what is messy though?
Ugh.
Madame Tussauds' decision to split up the Harry and Meghan waxworks.
This is such a stupid story and some prime shit stirring by this wax museum. I mean, are they in need of some more publicity or something? They basically announced this week that they are going to be pulling the Meghan Markle waxwork out of the royal family section and moving her into this celebrity party room called the Tussauds bar. And I mean, it's just so ridiculous because the other people in there are the Beckhams, Tom Hardy, and Priyanka Chopra. Priyanka Chopra wearing this like gold sequin gown she wore to the Golden Globes, and you have Meghan in the green dress she wore when they made their engagement announcement, which just reinforces the fact that everybody knows Meghan because of her royal status.
Yeah, like, you don't think Meghan Markle celebrity actress anymore at all, right?
I mean, if you walked into this room in Madame Tussauds and saw the Beckhams, Tom Hardy, Priyanka Chopra, and Suits star Meghan Markle, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
So, Steve Davis, the general manager at Madame Tussauds London, has put out a statement saying, "We're always listening to what people have to say about their favourite stars. Meghan continues to carve out her own modern take on life as a royal, and we want to mirror her independent celebrity status in the attraction. It's not necessarily forever, and we're not splitting our loved-up couple. We're just allowing Meghan to mingle in her more familiar celebrity circle for a while."
Like, what were people saying about their favourite stars? Meghan's not a royal, she's a celebrity.
That seems like the kind of comments you shouldn't be taking seriously. But it's so weird. Like, if I was going to Madame Tussauds and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the Meghan waxwork, and I get in there and I'm like, all right, where should I go? I'll be like, I'll go to the royal section, right?
I mean, I would.
Like, you wouldn't be like, oh, celebrity party room, must go there.
I would have at least changed her outfit.
Yeah, I know. What's the theme for this party?
In real life, though, Harry and Meghan have not been split up. With baby Archie.
I loved their choice of destination for Archie's first holiday, jetting off to Ibiza.
That's such a Meghan destination, though. She's been there before.
Of course.
She went with some friends, obviously for the sort of wellness part of the island, not the clubbing part of the island that some over-concerned royal watchers were worried about. But they went to Ibiza for a few days just after Meghan's birthday, and they stayed in the gated Vista Alegre complex, which is a group of secluded sea-facing homes on a hillside. In The Sun, they describe it as a billionaire's playground and helpfully point out that Liz Hurley and Ronnie Wood have both had holidays there recently, though not together.
Maybe that should be the next Airheads on the ground trip. So then they came back to Windsor for a couple of days and headed off earlier this week to Nice. Obviously, these holidays have drawn a lot of attention in the tabloids for their use of PJs, private jets.
Apparently that's what Harry calls them. I can't believe this.
I can, actually. And I can imagine both Diana and Prince Charles being like, we get on the PJs. Take a PJ.
Well, these PJs have drawn huge criticism this week. You would think there is no other royal story in town for the amount of headlines we have seen. Some of the headlines that drew our eye this week included Harry the hypocrite, and in The Sun...
This was amazing. They called them Airheads. We finally made it. Made it to the front page.
We should note that they did pay for the flights themselves. There was criticism of that earlier in the week that, you know, these were taxpayer-funded private jets. But now the main focus is that Harry, the eco-campaigner, is a hypocrite for taking 5 private jets in the space of a couple of weeks. They include in that the jets that he allegedly used when he flew to the Google summit, which we still don't know if he was definitely there or not. It is complicated because to have that family flying anywhere is going to be a disaster, but flying private is not the solution. All of the conversation around this is that Meghan and Harry are putting forth this do as I say, not as I do message, and people do not respond well to that. But I think we should also note that William and Kate fly private to Mustique.
They do the same thing, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but the coverage is not in any way equal of these two families.
I think the contrast is interesting because Will has also been campaigning for action on climate change. You know, this year in January, he gave a speech at Davos speaking about it with David Attenborough. He has been very vocal about this, and even still, he flies private. But in The Sun, they were talking about how, you know, in 2015, Will took a Ryanair flight somewhere. It's so continuously unbalanced.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is that everyone is looking at the wrong private jet. Because who else was flying private this week, Tom?
This week we had Prince Andrew and Fergie flying to Malaga on a private jet. Son's kids.
Yeah, Air Miles Andy is back in the news for a number of reasons. We spoke about it last week, but we got some really shocking updates about this. There was a story in The Sun a few days ago where a royal insider was quoted as saying, "The Duke has been fairly relaxed up to now, but he's starting to shit himself."
Which, you know, it can happen when you're fairly relaxed, I guess. But this is not exactly the perfect start to what has been billed as a romantic holiday with Fergie.
And that quote was repeated a couple of times in the story.
Oh, yeah.
In The Sun, and then just went everywhere. I mean, who is this royal insider? So the reason why Andrew is starting to shit himself is that he presumably has realised that this Epstein stuff isn't going to go away. And the royal insider goes on to say that it's become the biggest story in the world and he's at the heart of the coverage, which is true. I mean, every story about this in international media as well as in the British media has pictures of Andrew. They keep using that picture of him with his arm around the 17-year-old Virginia Roberts.
And we got new pictures this week, just after we finished recording last Sunday. We got pictures of the Queen in the car with Andrew on the way to church, and she is beaming. She has her smile fixed to her face. This
is obviously incredibly notable because it's the first time that we saw Andrew in public since Epstein's death, and the Queen elected to drive to church with him knowing they'd be photographed. And I mean, Tom and I have seen the Queen at Trooping the Colour, and we've seen lots of pictures of the Queen. She rarely has a big smile on her face when she's driving around in a carriage or a car. But in this case, she has an absolute megawatt smile plastered on her face. Andrew's is even
giddier. And with his clasped hands,
he's
like
Mr.
rubbing
Burns. His palms. Yeah, it's, you know, a very public show of support for Andrew, and it was on the front page of many of the newspapers on Monday. She wants people to know she's standing by him. This is the most visible example of that, and honestly, the pictures are quite chilling. They've been haunting me all week. That smile on her face, the whole thing just seems really sinister to me and makes you question how the Queen has protected Andrew and shielded him over the years.
Yeah, I think this was a very questionable move because she's survived this long by basically becoming everyone's grandma, this tough old lady who's running the country. This really reminds you of what that office is capable of doing. What haven't we seen?
We should note that the palace have continued to deny any allegations of misconduct against Andrew, and they've been very firm in their denials.
I mean, I don't understand what the positives of this image could possibly be.
Because it was used time and again to illustrate pictures about Epstein. So you're putting pictures of the Queen in these stories over and over again. And now there are pictures today of the Queen going to church. Andrew's no longer there. She's with Edward and Sophie Wessex. But again, there's pictures of Epstein. And now the Queen is tied to this story more and more. And I'm interested to see how it's going to progress. Some previously unseen pictures of Andrew emerged today in the Daily Mail, and they are pretty unsettling too.
Yeah, so you might have seen them. They're stills from a video. The full video shows Epstein leaving his house with a very young looking woman who also looks very cold. She then returns to the house, and then later on the video you see Andrew letting another woman out of the house, and there's this horrible moment. He's kind of standing in the shadows, and he kind of
peering over the door,
and then he sticks his head around the door as if to see who's out there, who might be looking, and then
to check no one's seen him, basically. These pictures and the video were taken in December 2010. So it was just after that photo of Andrew and Epstein walking through Central Park together, and 4 months after Epstein had been released from prison for solicitation of prostitution involving a minor. So he was a convicted sex offender at this point, as we talked about before. But I think part of the thing that's interesting about this is that the palace said that photo of Andrew and Epstein in Central Park was the last time that they had seen each other, and it's not entirely clear if this was the same day or a day later, but it shows that Andrew was staying with Epstein and that they had a lot more contact than just going for a walk together in public.
Letting somebody out of somebody else's house, that really implies a level of like comfort in that place.
Yeah, and they have quotes in the Mail piece from an onlooker who witnessed this encounter, who said, "The prince looked entirely at ease in Epstein's house. What I remember most is the constant procession of girls and women going to and from the house. It was chilling to see. Everyone knew by that point that Epstein was a convicted paedophile, yet he was flaunting his lifestyle in plain sight. If I hadn't known it was Prince Andrew, I would have thought he owned the place. He looked so comfortable and relaxed as he stood there at the door."
Yikes.
It's just getting worse and worse, I think, because a few of the tabloids have said that they put questions to Buckingham Palace about whether Andrew had ever been questioned in relation to Epstein by authorities in the UK or the US, or if he intends to assist the authorities in either country now, and the palace has declined to comment. Epstein's house famously had lots of very disturbing decor in it. Would Andrew have seen any signs of Epstein's perversions in his home? You'd have to think they'd be hard to avoid, and if he did see them, why did he continue the friendship? Even if he didn't see them, why did he continue the friendship with a convicted sex offender? How does he explain the photo of him and Virginia Roberts?
The questions are just piling up around this and we're not getting any answers.
There's lots of things we don't know. I mean, it was unusual, I thought, to see in the Mail on Sunday that they finally were starting to run columns from royal commentators talking about Andrew and saying that he needs to face up to these unanswered questions.
But I mean, the real crime is Harry and Meghan going on a private jet.
Oh yes, speaking of the private jet, I could not get over how Andrew and Fergie's holiday was being described. That the language was kind of wacky to me. So the Sun story was billing it as a romantic holiday to their favourite Spanish hideaway, Sasha Grande, which has lush polo fields, a modern marina, and no fewer than 5 golf courses on which the prince can work on his swing.
But we know the real reason why they chose here. It's because it's owned by a Spanish businessman who will let them stay just in return for a signed photo. It's a free holiday.
Yeah, Fergie and Andrew are known for having honed the art of freebies and free holidays. So this doesn't really come as a surprise. One of the things I thought was notable about this whole trip was a senior royal source told The Sun that the holiday had long been in Andrew's diary, because there was some debate over whether he had been intending to stay in Balmoral for longer with the Queen, but then when news broke of Epstein's death, that he cut the trip short and basically fled to Spain. So, I don't know, do you believe that he was planning to go all along?
No, I don't. I think this all feeds very neatly into a kind of narrative of cowardice, where this man has gone to get his 93-year-old mother's help to get him out of this mess and then run away before he's had to face any of his brothers or sisters.
Which probably suits them pretty well. Yeah. In the past few weeks, we have seen stories about Fergie. She went to Balmoral with him, and it was kind of being sold as, are they back together? Is it back on? And again, that obviously serves a purpose of distracting from this much larger story. Could there be a marriage of convenience to distract from a very inconvenient sex trafficking scandal?
I don't believe that love is in the air. We got this great bit of info from an old friend who notes that Andrew and Fergie sleep in separate bedrooms. They get on wonderfully together, but as the staff at Royal Lodge know very well, there's no romance between them. Those days are long gone. To put it bluntly, there is no physical activity.
That's blunt enough, isn't it?
That's pretty blunt.
I mean, to say there's no romance between them, those days are long gone, kind of makes it pretty clear. So again, we get this very uncharacteristically explicit quote, just to really draw a line in the sand.
We're just learning so much about Andrew's body that I didn't want to know.
I think that's probably enough on Andrew, though. I wonder if maybe we should move on to our quote of the week.
This is a good one.
So at the moment, Suits, the TV show that Meghan Markle previously starred in, is in its final season. And last year, Meghan left the show, and they explained this by having her character, Rachel Zane, and her character's husband, Mike Ross, move away and leave the show together. But now Mike Ross is back for the final season, and he's asked by another one of the characters, how's Rachel? And he offered this little knowing wink. Good. In fact, if I told you how good, you probably wouldn't believe me.
Such a good response. I love the writing in Suits. They just come up with such good one-liners like this.
I can just imagine Meghan watching this and sort of smiling sadly to herself and sending a text to the actress who played Donna or Abigail Spencer or any of the other pals that she made on Suits to remember her fond days. But you know, we have no Fit for a King, Fit for a Queen this week because the only royals that we saw out and about were Fergie and Andrew, and we have nothing to say about their clothes. Yeah. So on to our first in line. Tom, who is it going to be this week?
It's got to be Archie. He's had his first holiday in Ibiza, aged 3 months, and then swanning off to Nice afterwards. What a glam, baby.
Last week we promised you a very special segment, and we are now going to present what we're calling the Tigys, which is our version of an awards show dedicated to our most and least favourite royal film and television. Now that we know when The Crown is coming back for season 3, we thought we would do a roundup of other forms of royal-based entertainment to keep you going.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural Tigy Awards, celebrating achievements in royal film and television.
In 2018, Hollywood lost one of its leading lights when Meghan Markle retired from acting to become a princess. To pay tribute to her contributions to cinema, we are honouring the finest examples of storytelling by and about the royal family.
Our first award is for outstanding achievements in makeup and hairstyling, and the Tiggy goes to Naomi Watts' 4 wigs in Diana.
Thank you.
For anyone who has an appreciation for truly ridiculous wigs, you will not be disappointed, as Naomi Watts wears 4 different wigs in this film, which only covers the last 2 years of Diana's life. And not a single one of them is an accurate representation of Princess Diana's hair. It's quite amazing.
And there's kind of wigs on wigs on wigs moments.
Yeah, so we've got the normal blonde wigs, but then we also have a sort of incognito Diana in disguise version where she wears a brunette wig to go to Ronnie Scott's jazz bar for a night out. That's really the most enjoyable part of this film.
I'm a princess and I get what I want.
For our next award, the top dog. We've seen many dogs in royal film and television, but the Tiggy goes to the corgis in The Queen.
They were called Poppy, Anna, Alice, Oliver and Meghan, and they won the inaugural Fido Film Award at London Film Festival in 2007.
Helen Mirren got a lot of acclaim for her performance. She even won an Oscar, but I don't think you can beat those adorable corgis.
She was nothing compared to these dogs. Like, did you see they were looking at her like she was the queen? They were looking at each other as though they lived together and were, you know, constantly playing with each other and, you know, eating together. They sold Royal Corgi perfectly. Our next award is for excellence in period film costuming. And the Tiggy goes to The Dress in Lifetime's William and Kate.
She's hot. She's hot. Yeah, that's what I just said. It's worth repeating.
Before William and Kate were married, before they were even going out, while they were still in college, Kate took part in a charity fashion show and wore like a showstopper of a dress. A sort of early 2000s version of the naked dress.
Kudos to this film because they actually present a much more tasteful version of this dress.
And now, the award for Outstanding Guest Performance in a Television Series. And the Tiggy goes to Sarah Fergie Ferguson in The Vicar of Dibley.
Oh, Madonna said she left her bra.
She did, yes. Voila.
Says she can't live without him.
Absolutely, yeah.
This was the 1999 comic relief special where Geraldine, the Vicar of Dibley, ends up having a house party with Johnny Depp, Madonna, Sean Connery and Fergie.
In the vicarage.
In the vicarage. The head of the parish council doesn't believe that she's had all these celebrities at her house. But then Fergie turns up at the door looking for her tiara that she left behind. And she also picks up Madonna's bra.
She also appeared in an episode of Friends that was really good. It was the one with Ross's wedding when they all go to London and Joey is looking for directions to Buckingham Palace and he asks Fergie.
Okay, so say hi to my friend and tell him you like my hat.
Okay, so what's your friend's name?
Oh, Chandler.
Hi, Chandler.
That was...
Oh my God.
It's Fergie, baby!
Jay says you don't really like his hat, but I think it's kind of dashing.
So the next award is for Most Familiar Face. So this is for the actor or actress who has played the most royals. And the Tiggy goes to Alex Jennings.
You probably don't know his name, but you definitely know his face. He was in The Queen, the film in which he played Prince Charles. He was in The Crown. He plays David, the Duke of Windsor, who was the Queen's uncle, who abdicated when he wanted to marry Wallis Simpson. And he was also in Victoria as Victoria's uncle, King Leopold. He's German in that one.
Charlotte used to like sweets too, but her doctors would not let her eat them.
He's really carved out a niche for himself, and I can't wait to see what royal he's going to play next. So we wanted to do an award to recognise the representation of younger royals, and this is what we're calling the Teen Choice Award. And the Tiggy goes to A Royal Night Out.
I've had the most remarkable night. So I see.
This is such a fun movie. I loved it.
Kind of a lesser known royal film, but definitely worth checking out. It has Belle Powley as Princess Margaret and Sarah Gadon as Queen Elizabeth, then Princess Elizabeth, and it's basically the two of them going on a night out on VE Day and sort of escaping from their handlers and just running amok over the city of London.
And they really do.
And Elizabeth has a little fling with a military hunk played by the Irish actor Jack Raynor.
So to follow from the Teen Choice Award, we have the Queen Choice Award. And the Tiggy goes to Pirates of the Caribbean 4, George II, as played by Richard Griffiths.
We know that the Queen is a big fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise because she had an orchestral version of the theme played at the state banquet, the US state banquet with the drums. We know she loves the films, and I feel like she would have been really into this whole scene.
Brought me the wrong wastrel. Find the proper one and dispose of this impostor.
From there, we turn to the best queen. The Tiggy goes to Claire Foy in The Crown.
It's not as easy as it looks.
I think she did such a good job of playing the young queen. It's like a side of the Queen that we hadn't seen, or even an age of the Queen that we hadn't really seen. The other kind of big royal films, like Helen Mirren's The Queen, it's a more recognisable version of the Queen maybe in those. So this was eye-catching for that reason.
I think what I liked about it is that I didn't really know who Claire Foy was, so she kind of disappeared into the character a lot more than Helen Mirren did. You know, with Helen Mirren it's like, oh, there's Helen Mirren playing the Queen. Or even with Olivia Colman, I mean, that 20-second teaser that Netflix released this week was excellent, but I still have to be convinced that I will see her as not just Olivia Colman as the Queen. But I know there was another performance that really struck you.
We have to give an honourable mention to Vanessa Redgrave's performance in Cars 2.
Queen, McQueen, McQueen, Queen.
Because that is quite something. Awesome.
And she even has her own automobile-themed version of Buckingham Palace.
A version of Buckingham Palace that's big enough to have like 100 cars parked in. Which actually maybe that is just Buckingham Palace, I don't know. So that brings us to our penultimate award. This is for Best Original Screenplay. And the Tiggy goes to Harry and Meghan, A Royal Romance.
I saw this lion. It's just a few feet away from me, and it turned around and stared at me, and it was right after the funeral, you know? I guess I thought, I don't know.
You thought it was her?
That's insane, right?
No, I don't think so.
The Lifetime films have really come a long way because the screenplay for the William and Kate film didn't have half as many zingers as the Harry and Meghan films do. We talked about the second Harry and Meghan film, Becoming Royal, in one of our earlier episodes, but the first installment in the Harry and Meghan Lifetime franchise has such gems as the moment when Meghan says, "I'm a grown-ass woman living in a real modern world and not some fragile wench up in an ivory tower. My tower ain't ivory, dude."
I really loved when Harry says, "That blog is part of her identity."
Speaking, of course, about the Tig, which we know is such a part of her identity. There's also a line that I can just see Jessica Mulroney getting printed up on a t-shirt for Meghan: "Glass ceilings, not glass slippers."
God, it's so perfect.
And for our final award, we have the Rachel E. Zane Award for outstanding contributions to the world of entertainment. And the Tiggy goes to the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. Meghan is often described as being a Suits actress, but her career in fact expands far beyond Rachel Elizabeth Zane.
One of our favourite of her performances is in The Data's Handbook.
So she did a few Hallmark films, and this is my favourite one, in which she plays a young woman who follows a dating guru's advice to find a man.
And finds that sometimes the perfect match doesn't tick all the boxes.
It's a really good one. There's also one set on the 4th of July where I think Meghan's family run a fireworks company.
Yeah.
And she returns home from her job in the big city and she rekindles with a high school boyfriend.
Sparks fly.
Yes, sparks do fly. Although that guy is absolutely no match for Meghan.
Yeah. I mean, they never are in those films.
She also played the BFF role in this sort of La La Land light film called Random Encounters, and she is very saucy. She's got very bawdy humour.
So, who's the victim? Guy I met online. Don't judge. We're young. I'm having fun.
A side of Meghan I loved to see.
You don't get to do that when you're the lead. You have to be the friend to get away with that kind of humour.
That's all we have time for, guys, so I hope you enjoy catching up on those while we all await the season 3 premiere of The Crown. Congratulations to all the winners.
So next week we're going to have an update on all the gossip from Balmoral. Did Kate and Will postpone their trip to avoid overlapping with Harry and Meghan?
How did Meghan react when she heard the grouse shoot was off?
Is Prince Philip going to make everyone have a barbecue in the rain?
So we hope you come back and join us next week. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at AirheadsPod, on Facebook at Airheads, and on Twitter at AirheadsPod.
Leave us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to read them. And thank you.
Have a great week.
Bye.
I'm chasing a guy who doesn't exist.
Oh, honey, aren't we all?